From Northern Avenue in Yerevan, this is CivilNet's Daily News Digest. I'm Maria Titizian, and here are the top stories for Thursday, February 13, 2014. Britain's House of Commons holds debates about the Nagorno Karabakh conflict. Also, the European Parliament is set to sanction 9 MEPs over Azerbaijani election observation mission scandal. Plus, several Armenian National Congress activists are detained by police yet again. And later, Puccini's Tosca comes to Yerevan with world-renowned soprano Hasmik Papian. The British House of Commons held debates about the Nagorno Karabakh conflict on February 11. Member of Parliament Stephen Pound presented the history of the conflict and the current situation ahead of the 20th anniversary of the ceasefire at the bequest of the Armenian National Committee of the United Kingdom. Talking about the toll the Karabakh war had taken, Pound said, quote, Andrei Zakharov, who is often quoted in this chamber, said at the time, "For Azerbaijan, the issue of Karabakh is a matter of ambition. For the Armenians of Karabakh, it is a matter of life or death." The MP highlighted the recent ceasefire violations, mentioned the Ramil Safarov affair, and spoke about the upcoming centennial of the Armenian genocide. He said, "We are approaching the anniversary of the great Armenian genocide of 1915. If ever there was a time when this House could look to Armenia with support, friendship, and solidarity, it is as we approach this anniversary." The MP also raised the issue of the disparity in British aid in the region. While Armenia received £882,000, Azerbaijan was given over £1.3 million over the same time period in aid. The very close trade links between the two countries, including the role of British petroleum and oil extraction and refining in Azerbaijan, was also emphasized. The Hawaii state legislature publicly debated and then rejected a pair of Azerbaijan-initiated anti-Armenian measures on Wednesday. As we had reported earlier, two state representatives, Rita Kabanilla and Mark Takai, had tabled two resolutions after they had traveled to Azerbaijan on an all-expenses-paid trip. The hearing of the Committee on Veterans, Military and International Affairs and Culture rejected the resolutions despite efforts by Takai. The resolutions were allegedly introduced at the bequest of the Azerbaijani government. Representative Rita Kabanilla was quoted in the Hawaii Civil Beat publication as saying, "The resolutions came from Elen Suleymanov, Azerbaijan's ambassador to the United States." Members of Hawaii's small Armenian community spoke at the hearing. Arpine Filyan Mar, Artur Mardirosyan and Ani Mardirosyan, who had mobilized the community to speak out against this measure. Reporters Without Borders has published its annual report 2014 World Press Freedom Index. In this year's report, from 180 countries, Armenia ranked 78th. According to the report, Armenia is the leading country in the South Caucasus in terms of freedom of press, as it has been in the past several years. Among the countries in the neighborhood, Georgia ranked 84th in the index, Turkey ranked 154th, Azerbaijan ranked 160th, and Iran ranked 173rd. The report states that Moldova, Georgia, Armenia, and Kyrgyzstan all enjoy a significant degree of pluralism and relatively little state censorship. However, pressure groups occasionally harass and abuse journalists, and that usually media outlets align themselves with the political orientation of their owners, leading to limited editorial independence. Lastly, in terms of the recent presidential and parliamentary elections that took place last year in Armenia, the report says that although violence aimed at journalists was rare, the electoral environment negatively impacted private media sources, allowing authorities to have the clear advantage. The Press Freedom Index is annually published by Reporters Without Borders. The index measures the degree of freedom that journalists and news organizations enjoy around the world. Several Armenian National Congress activists were arrested again late yesterday on Mashtots Avenue in Yerevan. They were passing out leaflets informing the public about the upcoming rally on March 1, which marks the 6th anniversary of post-election violence that left 10 people dead. The rally has been approved by city administration. Approximately 10 men dressed in civilian clothes approached the activists and told them to stop passing out the flyers. There were some skirmishes until police arrived on the scene and then proceeded to arrest the activists. One of them, Ani Gevorkian, was reportedly physically accosted by the police. They were detained and charged with public hooliganism. After several hours in police custody, the activists were released. Hundreds of laid-off employees from the Nagorno chemical plant gathered in front of the government building in Yerevan yesterday, demanding 15 months' worth of back pay. Their objective was to meet with Prime Minister Dikran Sarkisyan after several fruitless meetings with Armen Movsisyan, the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources. ՍիվիլՆեթ's reporter Nuart Dalakyan joined the protesters as they waited for the Prime Minister. After their attempts were unsuccessful, they walked to the presidential office and submitted their complaints in writing. They were promised that they would receive their 1 month's salary in the coming days. Nagorno has been idle for the past 4 years, and the future of the plant remains unclear. Today, once again, workers are protesting the controversial mandatory pension system. In the last several days, employees of the Yerevan Metro, the South Caucasus Railway Company, and the State Ballet and Opera Theatre took to the streets to demand that deductions from their wages not be made for private pension fund accounts. Early today, the employees at the electric networks of Armenia, affected by this new measure, also protested. ＳիվիլՆեթ's crew was there to cover their protest. The European Parliament's Ethics Committee is set to censor a group of 9 lawmakers who are suspected of accepting favors from Azerbaijan during an electoral observation mission there in October 2013. The MEPs, or the members of the European Parliament, apparently forgot to tell Parliament that they had been invited by the Azerbaijani government and didn't declare the trip on their websites. According to the European Parliament's new Code of Conduct adopted last July, any kind of present, invitation to a football game, show, or trip must be mentioned on the lawmaker's website if its price exceeds €150. The Parliamentary Advisory Committee on the Conduct of Members is expected to adopt sanctions against them. The committee will also look into whether the MEPs were remunerated on top of the all-expenses-paid trip. What is embarrassing for the European body is that this group issued a report describing the Azerbaijani elections as free and fair, while the OSCE mission found serious problems related to freedom of expression and assembly. Those 9 MEPs represent Estonia, Poland, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Slovenia, Germany, Finland, Croatia, and the United Kingdom. Stefan Füle, the EU Commissioner for Enlargement and European Neighbourhood Policy, yesterday tweeted, #Armenia EU's assistance helps not only with transformation of the country, but makes difference in people's lives too. The tweet was spurred by a report about projects funded by the EU's regional program titled Armenia, helping vulnerable families grow healthy. The EU-funded Rural Income Generation Project, where a number of refugee families in the village of Sis have been provided with skills to grow food. This was made possible through the application of the middle-lighter gardening method, which is adapted for small family plots and combines greenhouses and gardening techniques. At the end of the process, the villagers were able to increase their harvest rates twofold, even threefold. A new project to boost the competitiveness of small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, was launched in Yerevan on February 11. The project will be co-funded by the European Union and will be implemented by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, in collaboration with GIZ. The new initiative will focus on designing policy recommendations and crafting action plans to help attract transnational companies to Armenia and support the internationalization of local SMEs. The European Union and Azerbaijan have agreed to sign a readmission agreement. The Council of Europe has already agreed to the corresponding decision. According to the document, once signed, Azerbaijan will be obligated to readmit Azerbaijani citizens who have been illegally residing on EU territory. The EU Commissioner for Enlargement and Neighbourhood Policy, Stefan Füle, tweeted last night that the EU is ready to sign readmission agreement and that it is an important step in making visa regime for citizens simpler and easier. On November 29, 2013, Azerbaijan and the EU signed visa regime agreements during the Vilnius Eastern Partnership Summit. Beginning January 1, 2014, the EU and Armenia simplified their visa requirements as well. The Armenian Philharmonic Orchestra kicked off the year with a concert performance of the opera Tosca by Giacomo Puccini. World-renowned soprano Hasmik Papian was invited to come to Armenia from Vienna, Austria to perform. The last time Tosca was performed in Armenia was more than half a century ago. The exchange rate is up on your screen as we take a look at your forecast for today. It's going to be a sunny day in Yerevan with a high of 5 and a low of -°C. Gyumri will have a -3 and a continuing low of -14. Stepanakert will have a high of 11 and a low of 1. And our travel forecast takes us to the historic city of Budapest, the capital of Hungary, where it will be a high of 9 and a low of 2. And that's our digest for this Thursday, February 13. We leave you today with a performance by Hasmik Papian of Puccini's Tosca. Enjoy, and we will see you tomorrow.